when I was at uni, I thought I was going to become like a geneticist. I didn't think I was going to end up in service design because I didn't even know it was a thing. I went to my graduate, we had a hackathon as our interview, and I said to them, if you're going to make me do any coding, I'll just leave now because I don't want to be here if you make me coding because I hate it. They're like, no, there's so much more you can do beyond coding. So I didn't know about service design until I was in it. So it's trying to, help share that there's tons out there. It doesn't, you're not just a coder or, you know, you're not fitting into a box that is just, male dominated, but anything I can be doing to sort of inspire women in tech, I think is important because they need to have a presence to help make this work as well.
Caro, it's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you again. We've only just stopped working with each other, but it's nice to see you again in maybe a different space, in a different way. I usually start these conversations just for the people that might be listening, just to kind of give a little bit of context of who you are. So I've sort of written something, but people always cringe when I do this.
I'm excited to hear what you've got.
Well, so you started out in science
I did.
as sort of like and kind of that was with a research technician and researching with DNA extraction and genome typing and laboratory preparation. And I mean, that's such a everybody has their own way into design.
Yeah.
And I just find that
Not
such an
often
interesting start. And then you've moved into working for Toastmasters. And I guess this is all in New Zealand, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were organizing events, supporting people to build confidence in communication, public speaking. And that gives me my first clue at why, when I work with you, I found you to be an extraordinary communicator. So it's sort of like, there's my first clue. And then you moved into being a facilitator with the social experiment. I'm very interested to hear about that. And then you moved to being working with a graduate hub. I guess that must be it's still in New Zealand. And then you moved into service design with Westpac. And then now you're a senior service designer at, I'm going to say it wrong. Can you help me?
Cognizant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's quite a journey in. I'm really interested. How did you make that transition from research in sort of quite a scientific background, and then how did you kind of find your way up here? Has there been a thread that's followed you, do you think?
I think. I mean, I never thought about working in IT or technology because my sister did, and she did a degree in information systems, and I wanted to do anything except what she did. So I went down the science path and was always interested in that. And I've always thought I'd end back up in some form of science or healthcare, even now in my career. But at the time, I got a degree in genetics and started working in this lab. And I also got a degree in commerce because I thought, which sounds very shallow, but there was a bit more money in commerce. So I did a degree on the side as well, which ended up being in information systems. And through that, I got the graduate role at Westpac, and there you can kind of try lots of different things. So I started with product management, then I went into change management, and sort of did all sorts, worked on their website until I had a rotation in service design. And I didn't know it was a thing. And it was one of those things where when I found it, I was like, that's cool. So within a few months of being on that rotation, they offered me a role, and the rest is history, really.
Interesting. Yeah. And that, because I share your like surprise and, adulation for service design, in the sense that like I equally, I didn't really know quite what it was. Like I had a very different trajectory to you, but I'd sort of heard of it over here, of like service design. And I was sort of like, I still feel like I'm figuring out what it is. Because my sense is it's like a generalist's dream.
Mm, mm,
That's how I put it, because
yeah,
it's kind of like you can go anywhere in within a certain sort of field of a gig. And I think certainly having worked with you and hearing some of that story, like it's, I mean, or another word would be the T shape,
correct.
that
Yeah.
seems to be where you find your happy space. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I was on in this rotation of service design, we were redesigning a internal employee experience and creating a new system for them or a new service. And um, we had the prototyping work, and that was all really cool. But I just felt as though there was something missing. I felt like I was missing the bigger picture. And so I think while I thought that was really fun and creative, and I love that side, um, I did feel like I needed to get that kind of breadth a little bit more. So I think that's when it did change a little bit. And yeah, I would completely agree. I love that we can sort of tap into anything in this kind of design realm and, are skilled enough in it to understand it, maybe be able to execute it to a certain extent and, yeah, kind of see that bigger picture.
Yeah, because I guess it's like, and something that we talked a little bit about was like the diversity of experience and how useful that can be. I mean, and it's my continuing like cry at the moment is that like the industry at the moment doesn't seem to like generalists.
Mm,
What they want is sort of very specialized roles, people with very good AI, very good at Figma. That's the
mm.
common one, product design, that kind of thing. But I feel like certainly in the work that I've been doing, and I wonder what it is for you, but the ability to be able to have that diverse of experience and cut across different disciplines is often the most valuable thing that a project needs. That's what I've found, but I don't know if you've had similar experience.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at roles out there at the moment, and I feel like they are kind of UX design, but or looking specifically at sort of I like interaction design,
Yes.
um, but interaction slash service design, or it's UX meaning specifically like almost product design
Yeah.
slash service design, and I feel like it almost needs to be the other way around in my head. I don't know if maybe not a fair assumption, but I think product designers I've worked with in the past haven't they of course journey mappings and things a little bit, but I think that their work is quite focused in sort of that product specifically itself, and having that kind of wider step back service design skill set isn't I feel like it's very niche to service designers if you've actually done kind of service design. So it's quite interesting to me that that role is almost just people are kind of asking for a catch-all kind of person to fill a role um, that I don't. Yeah, because I would like to say if there's a role that was product slash service design, I'm like that's really cool, but being able to actually do the product design to the standard that they're expecting it,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think is difficult. But yeah, so
Yeah, I think
it's
I think I've often found I've described myself as like a 60 or 80 percenter, and what I mean by that is like I enjoy the divergency, the scrappy, the kind of formulation of an idea, like when it's fuzzy and then slowly sharpening it. But then I
mm,
think that there's certainly a need. Even in the age of AI, actually, that last 20% is actually like very hard and very specialist, and that's the bit I'm actually not that interested in.
yeah,
Buttons, rollovers, design systems,
yeah,
everything. I
yeah,
like the bit when no one quite knows what to do and everyone's a bit confused. And I kind
yeah,
of enjoy being in that space. I don't know if
yeah.
is that something that you've experienced as well?
Yeah, finding clarity in the ambiguity
Yeah.
and sitting in the ambiguity, I think, as well, getting comfortable in that, because it's an uncomfortable space, when no one really knows how to make sense of something, and it's in a complex environment. So that's quite a fun kind of thing for us to do is to come in and make sense of that. So yeah.
Why do you think it's? Because I have this fascination with people's discomfort of divergency and this like angst to converge. Like, let's just settle on a solution and this space of like asking questions and taking a step back, asking why. Like I have found in some cases like that is uncomfortable for people. You just said it there that it's not comfortable for people. Do you have any sense of why that is?
I wonder if it feels unproductive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I don't know, but I
yeah,
think it doesn't feel like you're getting somewhere. And if we're, we like to try different things, we'll throw some like ideas around, some different, like whether if it's a service like blueprint or end-to-end map or something, we're trying to understand the complexity of it by visualizing it maybe in different ways. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes it's kind of like it seems as though it's like, why are you doing this? Like, this isn't that helpful. Until they see it put together and it's like,
yeah,
oh, I get it now.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder if it just doesn't feel like you're moving forward, kind of whether it's making something tangible or not. But yeah, that would probably be my interpretation as to why
And
people don't like it.
that's a hard place as a consultant to hold that discomfort, because you're effectively asking the client for trust. Because if they're saying like, we want you to like make this design or whatever, they can see it like every 3 days or whatever. They can see progress. They can see
Yeah.
the mouse feverishly moving around. But then when it comes to that divergent space, it's like you're kind of saying like it's going to look like nothing for a while, and then
Mm,
something's going to happen, and
yeah.
and and there's going to be lots of conversations and ideas and post-its, but like not a thing. And I think as a consultant, I have found like that stresses me out sometimes, like holding that discomfort for the client, of like, we just need to do this workshop, what everyone, yeah, everyone,
Mm.
that what, a whole day, like, and it's hard to get that trust.
Yeah, I think a little bit is just being really clear on the intentions and almost you need to paint the picture for them, right? Because for them to even agree for you to start this work, like it's I think being able to, as you say, kind of communicate and articulate the value in it. It's like, yes, this is messy, but what this is going to do, and you do this really well, is you know this looks like this now, but where we're heading is this. These are the next steps. This is how we're going to get there, and in the end, we'll end up with this. Um, so I think being able to shape and communicate that and be really clear,
Mm.
that even though it's not what you might not, it doesn't make sense right now, it will in the end. So yeah, I think that's helpful.
I guess it depends if you have like something like, a good client, versus a hard
Mm,
client. And
definitely.
some good clients, like, I guess, like, when you have a good client, like, how does it make you feel, like, in terms of being engaged? Like, does it make a difference for you, like, in your day-to-day work? And what do we mean by a good client?
Yeah,
What is a good
yeah,
client?
yeah, absolutely. I think um for us to be able to do an effective job, we need an engaged client for one. Um, but we need them to be able to provide us with their time to make sense of things, especially as a service designer. It's not, here's a brief, this is the tool we're trying to create, this is what we want it to sort of look like with these things, and kind of go and create it, because we need to understand the service, end to end, front to back. And coming into a new client, you can't do that without speaking to people. And it is difficult when you're told, okay, well, these are all the different teams, and we're like, cool, can we go and speak to them? You go and speak to them. They've never heard of you before. They don't know why you're here. They've just heard that you're redesigning a service
Yeah.
and they want everything in it and they feel blindsided. So, it can be difficult in those situations, and I've learned a lot from those situations, and how to sort of manage that, which I think is just upfront, clear communication, but also, working with your key stakeholders to get them to sort of help the communication and the buy-in. Yeah, but I think the good clients, what I've noticed has been they're fully on board. They treat you as part of their team, as we've just had on our
Yeah.
current, or my previous client, your current client, and being willing to, when I say, hey, I'm going to shape this workshop up, but would be great if we can check in every week, and being able to give you that time, give you that feedback, they get a much better outcome because they've contributed to it, they've bought into it, and it makes a world of difference in
Mm,
what we are able to produce.
yeah, and I mean something that I I think that underpins a lot of that is trust, and that
Completely.
ability to cultivate the trust, because trust is earned, it's not
Mm,
given, right? And
yeah.
certainly, I working with you, I witnessed, I was like, she has been given trust. Like the way that the client related to you and talked to you, it was very clear that trust had been earned. And I kind of, in that journey to creating that trust, I, I I've had it in other gigs as well, where I have this doubt of like and it's something that on this podcast I've talked about with some other people as well, this whole like imposter syndrome,
Mm,
this 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 character that comes into the room in your head. Like,
yeah.
what are you doing? You know, I still have this fear that someone's going to say
Mm.
to me like, hang on, what?
Yeah.
Who is this guy? What? I mean, do you? I mean, because some people starting their career might look at you and think, this is someone who's like won an award, who's working for a high consultancy. Like, she's not going to
Mm.
have imposter syndrome. She's worked for like government departments. Like, it doesn't end, does it? You never get there. I mean, is it something that you still experience now, or do you think that you've banished that demon?
No, I don't think it will ever go. And I mean, I was listening to another of your podcast episodes where someone was also speaking to it and saying it doesn't go.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's reassuring, but because I think of it as a good thing, and it's not a comfortable thing.
No.
But it's all about getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I think so. I mean, my journey with it has been, I always thought I had to know all the answers. And especially when you're being brought in because maybe the team can't do it, or, they might not know the answers themselves. Um, Trying to feel like I had the answers, and I felt I was being paid to know the answers.
Yeah.
And that was really stressful. And so I'd kind of ask my questions and then feel like I'd go away and be like, okay, well, I need to know the answer now. And I didn't. And I really struggled with it. And what I've learned, and I'm still learning, is being okay to say I don't know, or I'll have to have a think about that, or and it sounds silly because I would remember being taught this at like school and when you're at uni, and it's okay. But then it felt like as soon as I got into my career, I just felt like I needed to know everything because that's what I'd chosen.
Mm.
Um, so that's one thing that I'm trying to get better at, being like, I don't need to know this. And sometimes I'll speak to, other people and I'll be like, I don't know the answer to this. I'm freaking out. And they're like, no, I don't know either, but let's work through it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't need to know the answer.
Is it something like something drops, doesn't it, when you declare that you don't know, and
Mm,
and you and I have experienced it where I will say sometimes to clients like, I don't know the way
mm,
forward, but
mm,
I'd like to look at the problems that we have and work together to figure it out. Like, as soon as I frame it like that,
mm.
they seem more relaxed, and I feel more relaxed. I've never had it where I've had someone say, absolutely not, you're here to tell us what to do. Like, but there's still that nag that
Yeah.
somehow I have to do that. But it sounds like you're navigating that quite well from what you're saying.
Um, on the outside, I am.
That's the trick, right? It's the poker
um,
face.
yeah. But I was reflecting on this and I thought, it's actually it's a strength it's something you can use to your advantage, because if you're in a position where you're feeling imposter syndrome, it's probably because you're on the edge of your knowledge and
Yeah.
you're learning something new. So I think that's one thing, is it's an opportunity to learn something more, as cheesy as that sounds. Um, but I do think it's making me a better designer because I'm not getting complacent. I'm always also sort of asking for feedback because I'm here maybe freaking out that I don't know the answer. So I go and ask 10 different what they would do. And then I get 10 different opinions. And then I can kind of pull it all together and I learn new things from 10 different people. So I think it if I was to really put a positive spin on it, I think it does kind of push me a bit more, but it is uncomfortable. And I'm trying to just kind of learn to sit with that, realize it. And I almost just go, what are you going to do about it? And
Yeah.
just try to do something about it.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah, yeah, I'm in awe really, because I think yes, that's what I've been trying to figure out, and I've only been doing this a little bit longer than you, and I still wrestle with a lot of that. So I think the fact that you have got there so quickly
Well,
is great.
I mean, when you're on clients, you don't have a choice. You're the only, and I mean, this is one of the things I don't like about being a service designer, maybe in the way we work, is it's so rare for us to work with another service designer
Yeah.
to be able to learn off. Especially being quite early on in my career. That's when I want to be working with service designers the most. So you are the only person in the room that can solve that problem. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of like you're thrown in the deep end and you don't have a choice. You're built to this client whether you like it or not, and you need to come up with a solution. So you better figure it out. So a bit of tough love works there as well.
So I think there's something, and I understand you've done quite a lot of work in helping working with grads and people at the very beginning of their career, and something that I have seen happen is that for grads and people starting their career, what can happen is that they'll do a boot camp or they do some training and they get told about the model of like design thinking, double diamonds,
Yeah.
all these kind of things, and then I think what happens is that they'll hit a project and suddenly like, oh, we're not working in sprints. No one knows what agile is. Like all the paradigms that they need in order to construct that methodology don't exist. And so now we're in free fall and chaos. How do you bring order? And often they don't tend to teach those things. But I wonder how, like, if that's the kind of conversations that you were having, with some of the younger people you've worked with.
Yeah, I've not worked with graduates, but younger than that.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I've
right.
worked with like school age children, sort of
Amazing.
11 to 14. And I mean, part of what I've done in the as a Tech She Can ambassador and a STEM ambassador is just sharing what's out there for young women actually. So, I mean, this is slightly diverging from what you're talking about, but it has made me think of when I also worked for the social network in part of what it was trying to sort of get young kids into the entrepreneurial space for like social entrepreneurship kind of thing, and give them confidence and skill sets to be able to work to go into the space. And one of the parts of it was systems thinking. And I always remember, it's the classic, you've probably heard of it, but, there's a group of people with the blindfolds on and there's this object and someone says, okay, figure out what the object is. And one of them, touches the tail. And it's like, oh, it's tough and it's rubbery and and it's thin. One of them
Yeah, yeah,
touches the trunk, and you take the blindfolds off and it's an elephant and you need to look back at the wider system. So
yeah.
that's sort of what came to mind when you thought of what are the examples that you use to kind of think of it. But you're so right. Any theory, and I thought about doing like a master's in service design or things like that, and I'm like, which it might be a bit more practical, but any theory and it's the same as university. It's until you get into the situation where you're doing it that I learn the most. So that's why consultancy has been great, because every 12 weeks you're thrown in a different problem, new set of stakeholders, new challenge that you need to figure out, and anywhere from discovery through to live. So that would be my recommendation of a way to learn is just become a consultant.
Yeah. Because you get that diversity, don't you? And that,
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
like hardens you and weathers you to, because I think we were saying like, when I like leave a perm job, it's quite an emotional experience because it's like my
Yeah.
identity and all this. And when you do the contracting stuff, it's like, you go through that every like few months. It is quite a ride, like emotionally, to get attached to something and then have to let it go.
Yeah.
That could be quite hard. I wanted to just come back to this thing of the work that you've done. And I'm really curious, like you've worked, you mentioned like particularly work around supporting young women and young people, and what drew you to that? Like what was the, how come you, because you mentioned at the start that you were kind of drawn by money and feeling a bit guilty about, but
Yeah.
then you have counterbalanced that with quite a lot of like tech for good and working in the social equality sector. I'm just kind of curious, like how did you get there, and what was your...
Yeah, I don't think money's always been the drive. It felt like something I should do.
Right.
This is going to set you up better for life. Um, so admittedly, I didn't follow the path of do what you enjoy most. Although, yeah, I mean, genetics was very cool, but I didn't really know where I could go. Whereas I also think because it's a lot more common in the, in tech space, it seemed a bit clearer as to what you could kind of be and become. So yeah, I think this sounds so cheesy and I hate saying it, but I've had these two goals for as long as I can remember. I think I had a third one, but I can't remember what it is, so it's clearly not that important. But one was helping others and one was continuous learning. And I've kind of always just felt like those are things I like to do. And so I think it just naturally is why I've, done like service design and design where you're able to kind of help users. It's, you know, I can't stand the thought of not thinking about end users at the end of it, as some services work, and it's the same business needs as well, and business goals. But I think the opportunity came to me. Someone asked if I wanted to do it, and I absolutely said yes. I think being able to directly impact and change people's lives, because we don't do a lot of like, even user research is not that common for us, as in the sense that we have user researchers doing the user research and speaking to the users themselves. Being able to directly speak to people and help others, I think is what I really love about it. Yeah, sorry.
Well, yeah, I was curious, like particularly around like empowering communities, and because I think there's generally like doing work that's good for people, but I've understood that there's a sort of sense that you've had, and we talked a bit about it, around reducing the stigma around like tech being quite male
Mhm.
dominated, and really like trying to inspire and help young women kind of come into the sector. And I was really curious,
Right.
like what was, did you have any personal experience, or was there some kind of reason that got you into that space?
Yeah, I mean, I find in design it's mixed, maybe more women, but not in the corporate tech space.
Right.
Um, and I have had experiences where, the male is that, despite like, one specific experience where I'd, been on the client for a while, and um, someone was kind of new, just meeting a new person, and having me being the one with the knowledge, started asking them the questions, even though I'd kind of been speaking and explaining, and then kind of just said, "What do you think?" Like not in a, no, not what do you think, but like, what's this? How does
They
this?
defaulted to the man.
Yeah, and I was like, that was he doesn't know. I know the answer. Like,
Yeah.
do I, do I jump in here? Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that,
How did you respond in that situation?
um, well, I don't know if it's like my imposter syndrome or just being hard on myself. I'm like, oh, don't be, don't make a thing of it. It was just something that didn't sit right, but I didn't really at the time say anything about it, because I was like, I don't want to be being dramatic here. I don't want to think that, oh, the girl in the room like cried, like, or something, which I shouldn't think. But so I didn't do anything about it, but it was something that I've just kind of remembered in the back of my mind. Um, there's been other situations where it's like, oh, don't swear in front of the woman, and things like that. But I'm just like, it's a bit weird. So yeah, I don't love that.
Yeah.
But it's not something is really impacting me day to day, and it doesn't need to kind of take up that mental space, mental real estate. But if I can do anything to help change for future generations, anything around that, but also just the stigma of women, like men being in tech, then want to take that opportunity. So, going and speaking, we did a with a colleague of mine, teaching young women about AI. And we did at the beginning in a class of 30 ask, who would consider like doing technology as a job. I mean, loose form technology, but going down the IT path, and not many put their hands up. We're like, do you think it's a job? Just kind of to see like who would typically have a job, or like, can you draw a picture of someone that would have a technology job? It's kind of all men. And
Really?
so then we do this and we talk about us, and that this was with a colleague who's a product designer, me doing service design, but then talking about AI and our experience with it. And we did like a fun little game and things. And at the end, they were like really inspired and just like, oh, cool. Like, I think I'd consider it now,
Mm.
which is so awesome to see. And I think the other thing as well for young people, young women coming through, is their jobs might not exist yet. When I was at uni, I thought I was going to become like a geneticist. I didn't think I was going to end up in service design because I didn't even know it was a thing. I went to my graduate, we had a hackathon as our interview, and I said to them, if you're going to make me do any coding, I'll just leave now because I don't want to be here if you make me coding, because I hate it. They're like, no, there's so much more you can do beyond coding. So I didn't know about service design until I was in it. So it's trying to, help share that there's tons out there. It doesn't, you're not just a coder, or, you're not fitting into a box that is just, male dominated. I know I've kind of strayed from that kind of stigma conversation a little bit, but anything I can be doing to sort of inspire women in tech, I think is important, because they need to have a presence to help make
Yeah,
this work as
I
well.
agree. Yeah, I'm so, yeah, I'm glad that you're talking about it, and I that's partly why I wanted to, bring it up, because I just want to give that topic as much oxygen in as many spaces as possible. My sense is that, for younger women, seeing people like you, out there, in big roles and stuff, like, hopefully feels inspiring and hopefully shows that it is possible. But there's something like that struck me that I think you mentioned as well. It's like you're not the quiet type. You're quite like confident, and you are okay to speak out if something doesn't sound right. How did you get made that way?
I grew up in a very loud family where if you don't speak, no. I I think I was very lucky with the sort of people around me who are strong, well, women especially, who will really stand up and say what they think. We have a constant fight in my family of like who gets to talk. Like, you're like always kind of talking over each other, which I don't love. But I think it does make, I've now therefore become someone who I want to try and actually listen a little bit, like, take that step back, and I don't always have to say what I am thinking. Because if you're the one speaking, you're not learning.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, yeah, I think it's just, I mean, how I was raised, but I'm so grateful for it. And I've had conversations with people who are quiet and more shy, and have been impacted in the workforce by that, by
Mm,
people thinking they don't know what they're talking about. Um, and, you know, it ends up not working in their favor just because they're quiet, and which is really tough, and it shouldn't be that way. So yeah, I I think I'm lucky it's a strength, and I should use it, as a platform. But yeah, it's been really interesting to see that not everyone's not everyone's the same as me, because I
yeah,
always thought
yeah.
we all were like this.
Yeah, no, I similar to you. I'm a bit of a loudmouth. I'll say that about me. You can decide if that's about you.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I am becoming more aware. Certainly in the last few years, and my son is also neurodiverse, about
Yeah.
neurodiversity and its place in like corporate spaces,
Yeah.
and particularly like when we talk about people that are quieter. it might well be that, I mean, there's lots of names for it, introverts,
Mm,
neurodiverse, autistic, who knows?
yeah.
But we're all different. And
Mm,
something that I think a lot about is, and I don't get this right, some of the time, but
mm,
I try to think about how to make, certainly in a workshop space where I'm in control, I really like try to create,
yes.
pockets of inclusion.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we did a workshop the other day, and I was sort of like, let's have a quiet moment where you
Mm,
can write your thoughts, and then let's go to, group discussion. And
yeah.
I try to do that because
Mm,
something I learned, I actually worked for, it was a company called Dot Project. It was a co-op, and we worked with loads of charities. And when I moved from the corporate sector to the charity sector, my jaw just dropped to the floor, because it was just
mm,
like a totally different language, a totally different way
wow.
of being.
Mm,
And there was a lot of conversations about inclusion at the time, and diversity, and
yeah.
creating diverse spaces. And it's something that I see it as a continuing thing of like, how can I bring that into
Yeah.
the work I'm doing? And I sometimes get that wrong, and I come in a bit like a wrecking ball. And then sometimes I try to adapt and sort of go, okay, I need to say less and listen more.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I think it's knowing your audience a little bit as well, and you can kind of get a bit of a vibe of how they're feeling and what and I do this in my day-to-day life as well. As you If people ask me to define service design, depending on who I'm talking to, I'll give completely different definitions. Um, so I think, it is about just being receptive to who's in the room, how they might be feeling, and as you say, including as you need it, or doing different activities to make sure you're kind of catering to everyone. Yeah,
A real like empathetic skill, isn't it? I mean, they call it like
yeah,
reading the room, don't they? Of sort of like, where is the energy right now, and
yeah,
what, and especially if you're working remote, it's
yeah.
harder, isn't it? But if you're in a room, it's like, I sometimes I can kind of feel like, there's some tiredness happening,
Yes. Oh
or so
yeah.
and so looks irritated, and it's so much valuable data that
Mm,
it can happen, that as a service designer and as facilitator, like we have to like really respond to that,
yeah.
find a way to sort of, orientate, like, how do we, pivot in a session to someone being annoyed,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's something that, because I think that I've seen you do a lot of, is communication, and I wonder about, the language that you think about when you're communicating. Is that something that you've learned along the way? Like, is there something that you think about,
Mm.
words you use? That is there something that a
Y
practice that you've developed, do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I don't know if men get the same, um taught the same thing as us.
I love
Um
this topic, by the way. I just think this is fascinating. Please say
And
more.
I'm not trying to play the victim or anything and be like, "Oh, us poor," like, not at all, but it's an observation I've made over time of how, like, women, like, it's like tips to for a woman to sound stronger in her language. It's like, why does like, like, great that she needs to sound stronger, but do the men all like, it doesn't seem aligned. But one of the things that I remember and I try to use is not saying the word just,
Mm.
um, which makes you sound a little bit less kind of authoritative. I just wanted to check, like, oh, is it okay? And it's kind of like it's like and maybe I've now built this up in my head because I really don't use it or like to use it, unless it's intentional. But I, don't want to sound like, oh, I'm just checking if this. I'm like, hi, like now I'll do, or like I'll do like I'm letting you know, or it's much more directive. It is, this is happening, which it's not bossy, but it's to the point. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what I'm doing. This is what we're doing, or, open discussion about it, but it's not kind of asking, yeah, it is. It's just clear and it's more, um, it's just stronger language really. So that's, yeah, definitely one thing that I like to use as well. not apologizing as much, but I think
It's
that
sort of like making yourself smaller. Is kind of like thing that came to my mind when if someone uses that word, just like,
yeah.
I'm just here. Can I just ask you something?
Mm,
Suggest this. You're sort of getting smaller when you say that, and it's very true. Like, I've never had that thought or conversation with, certainly not with another man, about,
mm,
how do we not make
yeah.
ourselves smaller? Like, it's just not something that we think that men. I don't think men think of. But
Wow, that's really interesting to hear, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
certainly not in the circles I've been. I mean, I've noticed a shift. I mean, I can remember going back like 2005, 2007. Like, I was quite shocked at some of the cultures that I encountered. They were like
Mm,
sort of almost like you'd go into a meeting and then there'd be like another conversation that would happen on the way out with just the guys and stuff, and it was like
mm,
it's like I I just found it like really odd, and like I was quite young. I didn't know what I was actually witnessing. I was like, this, like, why are they talking? What? Like that kind of thing.
yeah.
But I've seen a lot less of that these days, but it sounds like it's still present in the industry, and it's something that we should everybody should take collective responsibility for. I think.
Yeah. With this award that I won, which is the platform to recognize women below senior management level, the topics we spoke about were about a little bit of this. And don't quote me on the study, but one of the studies done was they put with the same content, and I think it was maybe, I don't know if it was AI, or they put a male and a female entrepreneurs putting the same pitch with the same content to a panel of angel investors, and um, men were 60% more likely to get the investment than the
Really,
woman,
really,
and that's inherent bias and things were saying the exact same thing. Um, and I mean, you can kind of Google that narrative, and it comes up with the study. And it was super interesting. But yeah, I thought that was, I couldn't believe that that was the case. And they found that the way women would get more, and whether it was in that study or a different one, was if they spoke about how they were de-risking, then they were more likely to get picked. So women have to almost go above and beyond, or do more to make it, to kind of get to that same level. Um, and I mean, on this kind of language topic, we had a talk we had the networking day for this awards, and one of the ladies was saying about how women. I've just completely lost my train of thought as well. I started thinking, I was like, should I say who her name is? Maybe I shouldn't. Oh, well, well. So I'll give a shout out to Vanessa. Um, but let me just try and remember what I was going to
take your
say.
time. Take your time.
Um, Oh, how women, so when we get given credit for work, saying, and she gave this great example of, oh, well done to, say, Caroline on leading this project. And I would go, oh, no, it wasn't just me. It was, X, Y, and Z. So then down the line, when someone comes to say, "Oh, Caroline's really good. She's a great leader," they go, "Oh no, it wasn't Caroline. It was X, Y, and Z." Because I have my narrative, and the story I've been telling was I didn't lead that work. It was done with this person and this person and this
See.
person. So they've done the work, and it was so interesting because I'd never thought about it. And I mean, I always try to remain humble. And, I'm like, oh, no, it's not just me. Like, I did it, like, you guys, like, I've done that in the workshop. And they're like, you did a great job. And I'm like, oh, no, I couldn't have done it without you guys. Like, thank you for you're trying to be humble. But she was talking about changing the language to say, I really enjoyed leading on that. Or, like, thank you for allowing me to lead on that. It was great to work and collaborate with X, Y, and Z.
Um,
And it
um,
really, then it was a little bit about kind of that personal brand and the narrative, but it really highlighted to me how much, like, how important it is to take kind of ownership of when you've done a good job. Um, and that's not a bad thing to take the credit. You have led, like, you did lead on that project. That's right. Like, she's not wrong. It's so that was super interesting, something I'd never thought about before, and something I'm trying to work on. Still remaining humble and giving credit where it's due, but still being able to receive the praise and accept the praise
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, that's so interesting. I find in my experience, I crave that praise. It's probably something to do with when I was a kid or something like that. And
Yeah,
yet when it comes, I almost want to defer it.
yeah.
I think in a workshop that we were running recently, one of the people running it said, "Oh, thank you very much." Kind of looked at me right in the eye and we said it, and even though like I had been working with you really hard, for a few weeks to get that to happen, as soon as that praise came, I immediately like, "Oh, yeah, cool, yeah, cool." Like, but I wanted it, but I didn't want it.
Oh, do you know what's so interesting as well is in that same workshop, when we were going around the room giving out thanks, I was trying this thing that I've just spoken about. So I said, thank you for allowing me to lead on the Manchester workshop and for co-leading with Danny on this. So I didn't say, oh, like, because in the past I would have said, oh, Danny did most of the work. Oh, no, it was Danny, da 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 da. And we co-created the thing together.
100%, yeah.
And so that, and I think, they walk away and they're like, oh, they co-led it. Like, she was still a leader on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my fun example there. in the
Yeah, I
process.
love it. I love examples like that, and I hope that it gives people inspiration and gives people some sense of how
Mm.
you can model that in real time, and just like a little takeaway exercise of sort of like next time someone says to you,
Mhm.
thanks for running this thing or doing this thing, you can meet it rather than
Yeah.
turning away from it, and I think that applies to everybody, but even more so perhaps for women who might have
Yeah.
a tendency to sort of want to get smaller and not kind of
Mm.
accept that. Is that I mean, I don't want to speak
Yeah, yeah. I
as
think
it
no, I
says.
think that's absolutely fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's such good work, and I just feel like this podcast is about deeply human. It's about humans. It's about people. It's about us struggling with this mess,
Yeah.
be it societal, inequality, be it, our own feelings and our own struggle with the day-to-day job. So, I really
Yeah.
welcome that. But yeah, I thank you. I feel like this is a good point for us to close. But thanks so much for coming on and sharing like your experience, and within a few days of meeting you, I was just like, "Good to come and talk to me." And so thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks
And
for having me. It's
yeah,
fun. Definitely something new. I try to be a bit of a yes girl, especially when it comes to my career, saying yes to everything. So I was like, yeah, it's a new fun thing to do. So thanks for having
amazing.
me. I've enjoyed it.
We did it together. So yeah, thank you, Caro. Thanks. Thank you very much.